because you're sitting with someone today that actually wants to make a difference, because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees, because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket. I certainly will not be choosing people to date that work under me. Let me just say that.
This is such a huge body blow, almost a fatal blow to Fani Willis. I think the way forward is she has to voluntarily recuse herself. I don't know that she has it in her.
The DA should consider recusing herself as well as the case moves forward to allow it to do so cleanly.
All of this, especially this language from the judge, and we're just skimming the opinion right now. I'm sure there's likely more. It's really a gift to former President Trump and his co-defendants, because they're not only going to fight this case on the merits, they fight it in the court of public opinion. Optics here matter.
Any one of these statements by a judge would be a career ender. For a normal prosecutor to have an on-the-record finding that there are reasonable questions about whether you lied under oath, that would be devastating. And we'll see what the political effects will be. The bottom line, the DA survives, but not without serious bruising, to use your analogy, sir. They have survived, but not without substantial damage. I mean, there is some really stark language in this ruling.
The lack of judgment shown here, just absolutely stunning.
It just feels like this is not good.
I'm wondering now if there's going to be a lot of liberal pressure on her to recuse herself, because otherwise she is just a beautiful punching bag for Donald Trump.
Well, absolutely. I think there will be pressure. She has been and will continue to be a lightning rod in this entire prosecution. And you don't have to read a lot between the lines of the judge's opinion today for him to say that the public legitimately questions the integrity of this entire investigation, this entire prosecution, because of the things she's done and the things that she has said. And so to Andrew Weissman's point, if she were to step aside and say, look, Judge, you gave us a choice of either Mr. Wade or I leaving this case. Well, guess what? We're both going to leave the case and turn it over to the career prosecutors in the DA's office.
And these are all verbatim from the opinion. First of all, there's a, quote, significant appearance of impropriety that infects the prosecution team. Second, a tremendous lack in judgment. Third, the unprofessional manner of the DA's testimony. Fourth, the odor of mendacity remains. I Googled mendacity. It means lying. Fifth.
Already new order. That's
right. Fifth, the legally improper speech that was made in the church that Laura just talked about, legally improper with the effect to cast racial aspersions on the defendants. Sixth, the DA has created dangerous waters for the DA to wade further into. And finally, and I think this is the most damning, there are reasonable questions about whether the DA testified untruthfully.
When they're saying the odor of mendacity and they're talking about you, that is not a good day, especially if you're the prosecutor on the case. And I actually think this is a huge win for Trump, maybe more than he realizes, because she is tainted. She's lost the confidence of the court. It's possible this could be appealed, which could result in more delay. And I think it underscores what I've been trying to say since we first saw this sprawling indictment, which is I don't think they're very competent.
ABC News contributor and Georgia RICO attorney Chris Timmons, who has worked alongside Fani Willis. Does this ruling take away Willis's credibility?
It does, Stephanie, in the sense that a lot of the language in that order is scathing. I mean, I've never heard the term, odor of mendacity. He also suggested that her testimony during the hearing was unprofessional. Neither one of those things are things you want to hear when you're a prosecutor and you're reading over an order. So it does take away some of her credibility.
Despite being able to stay on this case, do you think she will step aside from this case following his resignation?
I don't think she'll step completely aside. I do think she'll move to the background, though. And so you haven't seen a ton of Fani Willis in this case. I mean, it seems like you've seen her because anytime anything big breaks, you know, she's had a press conference, but you haven't seen much of her in the courtroom outside of her actual testimony, which is what we're seeing now. So when it came to arguing the motion, she's generally passed that off to other attorneys.
If you were on Trump's team, would you be happy with this ruling? What do you think they're feeling right now because of this?
I mean, I don't think they're happy with the ruling itself. I think they wanted to have Fani Willis have to recuse herself or her disqualified, which would mean that the case would go into a prosecutorial limbo, it'd be in no man's land. And so if the case went into that no man's land, it would probably languish for months, if not years, before a new prosecutor stepped forward who would handle it. So from the standpoint that Willis remains on the case, it's a loss. But in terms of all the language and the scathing opinion of Judge McAfee in his ruling, I think it's a little bit of a win. Still, I think they're expected to appeal the case because delay favors them in this particular case. The closer they get to the election, then the less likely this case is to be tried before the former president has an opportunity to be potentially elected in November.
Trump's wins and losses over the past couple of weeks, we have it here as 4-1-1. SCOTUS agreeing to take the immunity case up, 9-0 ruling on the ballot removal issue in Colorado, 6 Georgia charges dismissed, 30-day postponement in the Manhattan hush money case. That was huge. Yesterday, judge denied a motion to dismiss. We have this down. Fulton County District Attorney Willis can stay on the case if Wade goes as a push. I don't know how you don't probably chalk this up as another win, right?
I think it is a win. I mean, look, the judge threw the lead prosecutor off the case and he called the entire prosecution into question. In addition, there's the question of delay. At a minimum, this has pushed the proceedings back by weeks, if not months. So I think by and large, it is a win for the Trump team. I mean, look, Fani Willis survives another day as the lead prosecutor. That is true. But this prosecution, to use, Andrew Weissman's phraseology, has really been called into question. And I think it's going to make it very, very difficult for her to continue to stay in this role as this prosecution moves forward.
The legal situation I'm having shouldn't exist no matter who's sleeping with who. Let's start there, Jesse. We all know that. I think that the fanfare and the craziness that Ms. Fani Willis has brought to the table with Mr. Wade has been quite honestly entertaining, but distracting from the key fact of the case, which is that President Trump did not do anything wrong. This case was brought clearly by selective prosecution, persecution, and only for election interference. We see that now.
So this may not be the end of Willis's problems either, because here's what Judge McAfee wrote in part in his order. Other forums or sources of authority, such as the General Assembly, the Georgia State Ethics Commission, the State Bar of Georgia, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, or the voters of Fulton County, may offer feedback on any unanswered questions that linger from this case. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen here, including a big investigation by the Senate in Georgia. The governor could also appoint a special prosecutor, as could the attorney general in the state.
And the new series of inquiries from the Georgia legislature and, of course, the Judiciary Committee that's led by Congressman Jim Jordan. Now, Chairman Jordan recently threatened to hold Fani Willis in contempt if she fails to produce subpoenaed documents by March the 28th.
It appears that Ms. Fani Willis is, at the moment, getting hit from every angle. You have the Georgia State Senate completely independently launch their investigation into this matter, the one that we just read about. Then you also have the chairman of the Fulton County Audit Committee launching a separate investigation into the supposed misuse of county funds. Then you also have the House Judiciary Committee at the federal level launching their own official investigation into Mr. Nathan Wade and whether or not federal money flowed through Fulton County to him. Then you have the presiding judge in the actual RICO case against President Trump and his 18 other co-defendants. He's also demanding answers from Ms. Fani Willis, giving her a deadline of this upcoming Friday to answer questions in writing regarding this whole supposed affair. Then you also have the divorce proceedings between Mr. Nathan Wade and his actual wife, Ms. Jocelyn Wade, in which details about this alleged affair are beginning to come to light one after the other.